For a long time, I was on my high horse and I poo-pooed cardio. My theory was if I'm strength training and I'm doing strength training with any degree of intensity, then I'm getting a cardio effect. Therefore, I don't need to do cardio. And that is kind of true, but there are benefits to doing more traditional types of cardio, steady state cardio, zone 2 cardio in particular, that we will get into because cardio is not punishment. When you do it the right way, it's, dare I say, actually fun. All right, friends, get into this. So we are on training this week, and I am really excited to dig into the topic of cardio. Yes, you heard me say it. I actually am excited to talk about cardio. And it's funny to me because for a long time, I was on my high horse and I poo-pooed cardio. My theory was if I'm strength training and I'm doing strength training with any degree of intensity, then I'm getting a cardio effect. Therefore, I don't need to do cardio. I've already got it baked in. And that is kind of true, but there are benefits to doing more traditional types of cardio, steady state cardio, zone 2 cardio in particular, that we will get into. And we're going to understand what the differences are between the zones, what's going on, what dictates the zones, why you should pay attention to your heart rate zones, what zone you're in, what types of fuel you're burning between each one, and also what your overall volume of these different modalities are, because there are benefits to each one, but there are also drawbacks. And if you spend too much time doing one type, then you're not only leaving gains on the table, because you're just a one-trick pony, but also you're probably doing your body a disservice. So let's cue this up. Share my screen. If your goal is not just for fat loss, by the way. So like if your goal is that you want to preserve / gain muscle, you want to provide greater health and longevity for yourself long-term, internal organ function, mitochondrial function, hormone regulation, recovery, all of these things and fat loss will be assisted by a smart, designed and executed cardio routine. And spoiler alert, you already have the smartest cardio routine baked into your Resilience Method on-demand program. So congrats to you. But let's go through this and understand a little bit more of what's happening under the hood. So that way you guys are equipped to fish for yourselves, and you're not just relying on me giving you fish, and you can supplement your program with additional cardio should you choose per the goals that you have. Okay, you can always hit me up, especially in the group. Throw a message in the group thread and let us know if whatever questions you have. There we go. Cardio that actually works. So talked about all that already. So we're going to reframe exactly what we mean by cardio. We're going to talk about aerobic versus anaerobic metabolism and how that plays into different types of cardio activities, fat versus carbs as a fuel source. 5 different methods of cardio that are worth discussing that are oftentimes hot topics as well, and then how to actually structure a week. Okay, so like I said, it's not just the benefits of cardio are not just for burning fat, and it's also not a very effective tool actually for you to instigate some sort of masochistic relationship with weight. It's not helpful to punish yourself for eating an extra slice of pizza or 5 by just going on running endlessly, because like you should get in shape to run. You should not run to get in shape. And when you do it the right way, it's, dare I say, actually fun. Train your energy systems. We already talked about this. Okay, so I talked about that too. Aerobic versus anaerobic. Here we go. So aerobic means with oxygen, anaerobic without. So there's 3 ways actually that your body can produce energy. 2 of them are anaerobic and 1 of them is aerobic. And my favorite of all time metaphor is, think about you're trying to start a fire in the woods. And so you need some matches, you need some kindling, and you need some big logs, right? And so the 3 metabolic systems that your body uses are pretty similar to those 3 ways of making fire. Match, very easy to make fire. It comes up instantly, but it burns out very quickly. Match doesn't have much fuel in it. Kindling takes a little bit longer to catch. You probably, you need to have a little bit of fire going already. A little bit longer though. It still comes up relatively quickly, but it also burns out. take longer than a match, but shorter than a log. And the log is where the real heat comes from, right? And so in this metaphor, the log is aerobic metabolism. It's the Krebs cycle. It's your body utilizing oxygen and to create energy. And fats have twice as much energy stored in them as carbs do. And the chemistry of how your body also borrows energy from oxygen creates a near limitless supply of fuel. Problem is, it takes a while to get going. It's a little slow, right? So that's why we have these other ones. And yeah, they're driven primarily through, well, one of them is creatine phosphate, and that's the match. And then glycolysis, which is a carb metabolism process. Glyco means carb. So why does that matter? So let's look at this. So like I just said, fat versus carbs. So fats, the log goes into aerobic metabolism, and then fat is the main fuel source mixed with oxygen. And this, so when you're working aerobically, then that's what you're burning. You're breathing, oxygen coming in, oxygen is keeping up with the energy demands, and you're mobilizing fat. Fat could come from anywhere. It could come from your blood, it could come from your liver, it could come from stored fat. So the less intense the exercise is, the more fat you're going to burn. Now, I need to say, yes, important, fat burning during exercise does not equal body fat loss overall. So crucial. I can't tell you how many times somebody said, oh, well, my goal is to burn fat to lose body fat. And so I'm going to stick with zone 1 cardio because that's the one that burns the most fat. Yo, that is not what this means. That mean the difference is, well, we'll get into it a little bit later on, but like I said, dietary fat versus stored fat are two very different sources. And also you have to take into account not just the effect that the training is having during the training itself, but also after the training is done. Rewind and listen to that again. It's very, very, very important because most of the benefits that you're getting from exercising, period, come from what happens after you're done exercising. It's your body's adaptation to the exercise that makes the magic happen. It's recovery, it's regrowth, it's rebuilding, it's hormone upregulation, it's anabolism, right? And in the case of cardio, it's excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, EPOC. You will burn way more fat through EPOC than you will from actually running or doing zone 1, zone 2 high fat metabolism activities. Okay, cool. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do them. It just means understand what these tools are. Okay, so exactly. This is a cool chart because look, it's showing, yes. Okay, so we're burning mostly fat in these lower zones. And when you get to, sprints and max effort, there's really no fat being burned. It's 100%. It's 100%. But yeah, this is a useful degradation here, delineation. And when we're talking about steady state, like going for a moderately difficult run, we're probably in zone 3 at that point, which is about half, which is what it's showing, fat carbs. And then, hard intervals hit zone 4, sprints, max effort, zone 5. So you can actually kind of just these labels are helpful on this chart, but you can just basically go zone 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Okay, so talked about zone 2 already. Now, the reason why I say that, okay, so it says it's good for fat loss. True, bear in mind what I talked about, that all of these are going to be beneficial for fat loss. What's helpful about zone 2 is that it increases mitochondrial density. What does that mean? Well, it means that your mitochondria are the actual batteries of each individual cell. They're where the energy is produced. And so all the fire and the match, the logs, the kindling, all that I was just talking about takes place in your mitochondria. And so when you do zone 2, you are upregulating this adaptation that will put more mitochondria in your cells. So that way you have the ability to make more energy when you need it, which is very helpful. So you're upregulating your metabolism more or less indirectly because you're giving yourself a greater capacity to create energy, which we like. Steady state, it's kind of like it's a one size it's kind of like right smack dab in the middle of everything. Like I said, it burns about half hit carbs and fat. It's like the zone 2, zone 3 pocket. And the fact that it's steady state, I mean, some people like it. Some people's minds are racing so constantly all day long. They're in their heads that they just need to do something completely mindless, like plod away on a treadmill for half an hour and or just plod along on pavement for half an hour. And that has a benefit for them. And I'm not taking that away from you. I'm just saying that if your goal is promoting health, there's a better way to do it. And if your goal is creating is like decompressing mentally, creating a better state of calmness, peace, and equanimity, there's better ways to do that too. So it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, I guess. But none of the tools, none of the things it can do, it isn't the best at. Okay, HIIT. So you guys who are in the program, you do HIIT as a finisher for your workouts. And this goes back to what I was just saying about excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, because that's what HIIT is for. So you're spending more energy than your body can produce in a given time. And so what it has to do is after you're done, it has to then make up that deficit. You're burning fat. Your metabolism is upregulated acutely after a bout of HIIT. And also it's good for insulin sensitivity, because when we start to get into, so HIIT is zone 4, 5, primarily carbs, right? Primary fuel carbs being burned. And so your body now becomes more sensitized. Well, it drains muscle glycogen is glucose, which is packaged up into a more compressed format and stored in your muscle cells. So it's easy access for when your muscles need to, and they need that little extra, right? When you're running hard or you're doing kettlebell swings for 30 seconds, right? Glycogen is your friend. So that's zone 4. And that's anytime you're burning carbs in that way, your body is sensitizing to insulin, because now the glycogen in your cells is drained. And so your cells want more. They're saying, feed me. And so next time you have some carbs, you have a cupcake, it's going to go straight into your muscle. Very good. Sprints is kind of like the ultimate example of, interval intensity, high intensity training. It's the hardest thing you could do. And for that reason, you want to be very, very, very judicious with your volume. The fan bike is a close second, but yeah, an all-out sprint, on a road or track or a field or someplace where you can just really open up, there's nothing like that. It does things for your body that nothing else can do. So it deserves its own category. Don't sprint too long, because then you start to muddy those benefits. Fasted cardio. No, you know what? This is probably a summary slide. Yeah, look at that. Okay. So I'm gonna keep you in suspense about the fasted cardio until I blast through. I've talked mostly about this stuff already, but zone 2, talked about that. Nose breathing is a key component, right? So zone 2 is, you can pretty well define zone 2 by the most amount of work that you can do while still breathing through your nose. So if you're going for a light jog or, hiking uphill or whatever, weighted vest, backpack, and you can still breathe through your nose, but it's hard, you're most likely in zone 2. And you should breathe through your nose, because that's just more, your body likes that more than breathing through your mouth. It likes the air better. It likes the cascade of signals of air coming through your nose better. If you want to learn more about that, check out the book Breathe by James Nestor. Fantastic book. I recommend everyone read it. All about the breath work, a lot of history. It's just fun to read. James Nestor is a good author. Very story based. Okay. What else do we not cover here? Yeah, if you're constantly in fight or flight mode, then focusing on a high intensity exercise, even though you may be good at it and you may enjoy it, is probably not a good idea, because you're already so sympathetically toned, meaning that your body's in this fight or flight state. And then training towards a fight or flight state is just going to make that worse. And the problem is that if that's the land you live in and you never go into parasympathetic rest and digest, then you're not going to recover, and you're not going to get any of the benefits that you're looking for from your exercise. And I see this all the time. People here at the gym taking these group classes, just punishing their bodies, under eating, work all day, kids, stress, not inadequate sleep and recovery. And then they just come and they punish themselves again in another one of these knockdown, drag out, conditioning classes. And they scratch their heads wondering why they continue to look the exact same, if not worse. Mind-boggling. Okay, steady state we talked about. Right. Too much steady state. We talked about that. Cool. Feel free to take screenshots, since I know I'm like not really lingering on these slides, but if you want to refer to the information later, because yeah, I'm not going to just tell you the same thing twice. I've already talked about it. But a visual reference is nice. Okay, HIIT, talked about that too. Don't overdo it. You'll notice that our finishers are like 10 minutes max. So a Metcon, I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole here, but there's a reason why CrossFit has such an infamous reputation and why people get, I mean, and with good reason. CrossFit is essentially doing HIIT 4 times as long as you should, or 5 every day. We wonder why you get injured or die. Okay, sprint training, talked about that too. Hormone response. Yeah, so I guess what we didn't talk about here yet is the power aspect. So yeah, generally speaking, like things that you're doing for high intensity interval training are not going to be power driven exercises. They might be bouncy, they might be high velocity, like mountain climbers or jump rope or med ball slams, I guess is kind of power, ski erg or something like that, right? But power is different because power is a maximum explosive effort. And sprinting is like your own built-in power workout. Plenty of other examples of power training, jumping, which I guess is also built in, but Olympic lifting is a great example. But sprinting, so you're running as fast as you possibly can, explosively kicking the ground away from you with one leg at a time. That's textbook power work, and that has a lot of benefits for your nervous system and for hormones. But again, you got to be very low volume with this stuff. Okay, fasted cardio. So the second time that I got in really good shape, I used fasted cardio extensively. It's not bad. So zone 2, zone 3, yeah. Fasted cardio can work. The big caveat here is that you just need to account for it in your nutrition plan. So you will do yourself a disservice long term if you're in a crazy calorie deficit, if you're already training hard and you're already, calling on your body for recovery and, strength adaptations and all those things. And then you were to add fasted cardio on top of it, like I had to do last year when I was bodybuilding. That is a recipe for disaster. You don't need to do that. So fasted cardio, I'd say yes, with the caveat of make sure that it kind of fits into a well-formulated plan for training and nutrition. Because yeah, absolutely, yeah, you can leverage and you can an enhanced fat loss effect acutely, but you don't want to be fucking yourself over long term. So if you have any questions on like how that could apply in your specific situation, again, hit us up in the group. It's also just nice, like it says primarily as convenience and appetite management. I mean, it's just easy to go for a run in the morning before you eat. If your life allows for that, it's like, it's cool in the summer. It's as cool as it's going to get. It's just kind of nice. Okay. So now structuring the week. Here we go. So putting all these things together. So your zone 2 or steady state is like 1 to 2 bouts per week, but these are longer bouts, right? This would be like an entire workout, like 40 to 60 minutes, 45 to 60 minutes. Your HIIT finishers, you're doing that 3 to 4 times a week, 10 minutes. So that's a total of 30 minutes. The first one's a total of like 120 minutes. The finisher's 30 minutes. We're up to 150 minutes. And that's about what everybody says. That's the consensus on like total amount of cardio that somebody should be getting. So there you go. Like I said, shameless plug. You guys are already doing that because if you're following the program, you're doing zone 2 steady state twice a week, and you're doing HIIT finishers 3 to 4 times a week. So you're getting it. You're already in perfect shape. Sprints, we'll get into more. I want to make sure that when you guys are sprinting, you're doing it right. But the summer's a great time to get outside and do some sprint workouts. So stay tuned for that. And fart walks daily. So another 10 minutes, like post meal, like at least once a day, has outrageous benefits for like long-term sustainable fat loss. For reasons I won't get into because we're out of time, and it almost deserves like its own topic. So here we go. Takeaways: cardio is not punishment when done with an appropriate volume and within a complete plan, strategy, health and fitness strategy. But there's all different kinds of it, and so understanding what the different kinds are more effectively, how they work, which is what this is all about. More intensity is not always better. That goes across the board. Aerobic fitness is important, however, and it does help you with everything else: muscle gain, recovery, energy, mental clarity, like all that stuff. If you're aerobic fitness is good, then all that stuff's going to be much better. It's going to happen. It's going to improve weight. So, and of course, we don't just want to survive cardio. We want to build a body that performs, recovers, and stays resilient for life. So, love you guys. That is the prezzo for today. Again, like I said, hit me up if you have any questions. Hit me up if you're watching this on YouTube. Hit me up in the comments. Guys in the group, hit me up in group chat. And let's get you sexy as fuck for the summer.